Well, let's go ahead and get started and let's dig into this. So, if we could, we've got some slides, so we're going to do some screen sharing. Um, so, if we're ready to go ahead and dig in and start. There we go. Yeah, we got it up. So, the title of this masterclass is very unorthodox, if you will. It's very different. It's called Your Freak is Your Fabulous. All right. And we're going to get into the story in a little bit about how that title came about. And there is a really great story involved in this. It's about Zach, to be honest with you, which is Melody's son. And he sort of forged this title for me, and he knows about it. So he's very willing to embrace his own oddities. But tonight, we're going to talk specifically about the 3-step method, all right, that's going to help you execute in a performance or a presentation. And this 3-step method is really about creating the confidence you need. And so we're not only just going to talk about the method, but we're actually going to give you some actionable things to take away from it. And as we go along, you'll start to see those. We can move. Yes, thank you. So I'm Julia Langley, and a lot of you know me, but we'll go through a little bit about what I've done. Cirque du Soleil. I've been singing with Cirque du Soleil for 18 plus years. So I've been all over the world, 20 countries, all 50 states in the US. And, I started adding up my knowledge, my time, 15,000 hours on stage. Yeah, I'm thinking, wow, really? Sometimes it blows my own mind. And I've been on a lot of the major news affiliates, CBS, Fox. I even did the weather in Alaska one time, which it's not real hard. It's cold. It's usually always cold there. But anyway, those are some of the things that I've been able to do. And I've seen it all, guys. I learned the hard way, right? It wasn't I just stepped into it and it was like easy, and I made so many mistakes along the way. Hard knocks mistakes. I got knocked down. I had to learn how to pick myself back up. I got disappointed. Oh, I can't tell you how many times. There were times when I would have to open up a newspaper in a major city and see somebody write something horrible about you. I mean, we all sit around and talk about Taylor Swift, but imagine how she feels, right? I felt that. And whether you believe in it will like her or not is irrelevant. The fact is there's a human behind that, right? And if you're putting yourself out there as a speaker or as a singer or performer, you're putting yourself in the position to get that same kind of reaction out of people. And sometimes the reaction that comes from people is not a truthful reaction. It's because they want to be up there doing what you're doing, or they want to be courageous enough to do what you do. And they just don't have it in them to do it. They're fearful. They're afraid. So they'd rather be an armchair quarterback and find everything wrong with what you're doing than take the chance to put themselves out there and do it themselves. So these are just a few of the things that I've learned along the way. And what I'm doing tonight is condensing a lot of those down. That's what I try to do with all of my clients, is really help them step across some of these pitfalls that you can get into. Now, what we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to talk about anxiety, number one, because this is the number one fear in the world, the fear of public speaking, right up there with spiders. And I still have a fear of spiders, by the way. That never went away. And I saw one the other day that was about the size of a tarantula. And so I wanted to burn the house down. All right. But don't burn your house down when you have to speak. Okay. Because you can overcome it. Right. So we're going to talk about how we can flip that anxiety and use that stage fright to fuel the performance. There's techniques involved. Learning how to have a relationship, not getting over fear and forgetting about your fear, but learning how to have a relationship with that fear so you can use it to your advantage and you can capitalize on it. We're going to talk about some of my favorite techniques for amplifying and finding the authentic voice. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. A lot of times we think we have an authentic voice. I did. I was like, I am authentic. I don't need help with that. And then what I found out was that I was not being true to who I was. I was not being true to my freak. I was not being true to my oddities. All right. I wasn't letting them shine through in a way that was useful. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about a foolproof strategy that you can get authority and credibility. All right. And that's whether you're a singer, that's whether you are a speaker, it doesn't matter. Songwriter, doesn't matter. Podcaster. All right. It's all about that frequency of your voice and how you use it and your confidence. So at the end of this particular session, I'm going to give you an opportunity to help you implement all the stuff that you're learning. Okay. I've got some resources that I'm going to send you because you're coming in here today and you'll get it through an email. All right. So after this class, be sure to check your email for stuff from me. And then I've got a special surprise for those of you who can stick around for a while until the end. So we'll talk about it when we get there. All right. Now, I want to talk about who this is for. So let's go around the room. This is when I want to open the floor up. Now, those of you who know me know I'm interactive. I do not stand up here and talk. I want to hear from you guys. So you need to raise your hand and tell me, what is your biggest fear? All right. Who wants to start? Who? All right, Fred. Let's see. Here we go.
I think my biggest fear, because I've had head trauma, is losing myself where I am in my speech. And, just blanking out.
Blanking, just completely not knowing where you are. And that's a very, very real fear. And Fred, we've talked about this in your podcast. After my accident, I had an accident in 2019. I suffered a head injury, and I lose words sometimes myself. So let's hear from a few other people, and then we'll address some of this. I'm not going to force you guys, but Kat, I see you smiling. What's your biggest fear?
I mean, mine, Julia. It's like I have a fear of being I guess people judging me and taking things and being afraid what they think of me, really, things like that.
Right. So. It's the judgment. It's the judgment that comes with it. Mari.
I have confidence in front of people. That's not the problem. But I would like to have a little bit more confidence in my message. You know what I mean? A little more confidence on how the audience is going to receive it. That makes sense.
It absolutely made sense. And that is, if I may, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're talking about clarity and simplification, right? And these are things that we can definitely address.
I talk too much. I need to say the same thing in lesser words.
Talking a lot is a gift, all right? It's just learning how to use that gift in the right way. And we'll get into that, Maury. Larry, I think you have your hand raised, yeah?
Yeah, I do. I'm kind of with Catherine and Maury both. And by the way, Charlie wants to say hello.
He doesn't. Oh, we love dogs. We are dog friendly around here.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I think for me, I notice I have a lot of fear around posting on. I'm quite posting on social media, fear of judgment around that. And it's interesting because I feel fairly comfortable in the camera now, but with the work that I did with you, Julie, I started doing these little mini concerts on Mondays at 4:00. And at first I just never thought, I thought there would be so much judgment. But I just really enjoy connecting that way through the camera. And I want to stop kind of worrying about people thinking that I'm being salesy or sleazy or something like that, especially because I don't want to second guess the value of what I offer people, because I really think people, think it has value, and you should stand in that and see it differently, not see it as anything except a gift, or an opportunity or whatever. So that's my fear, I think, is being judged.
I think that's so valid, Lowry. Yeah. And then thank you for sharing that, because I think that we all have a bit of that. Even when you're seasoned, even when you've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think, should I post that? Should I do that? And oftentimes it's when you do it, after all that questioning, is when you actually get the most response. It's very interesting, right?
Yeah.
All right. I think Kat raised her hand. Catherine. Oh, Fred has to. He had an obligation already, but came in here tonight. So thank you so much for joining us, Fred. And we'll be seeing you again. Fred's in the community, so we're so happy to have you. And we'll be doing more events. Fred.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Kat, were you? Oh, okay.
Oh, it was me, but I just wanted to chime in because I've been working with Julia for I think you guys know when I mentioned earlier that I'm from the Philippines and been working together. But I feel like my fear is that it's because English isn't my first language. I feel like I'm not relaying myself in the way that I want to because of some. I don't think I think I speak well. I mean, I can converse well in English, but sometimes when I do, I feel like sometimes the thoughts in my mind are not conveying in the way that I want to, and I feel like with everyone else, I feel judged, and but I do think that I'm an extrovert. But like I said, I think the language barrier is getting like the fear of that is, yeah.
Well, I think, yeah. And I thank you for bringing that up, because for native English speakers, sometimes we don't even think about that. We don't think about the struggle of someone from outside the country really trying to communicate. But I have to tell you right now, Kat's English, I'm a Southerner, so Kat's English is probably more proper than mine. Let's be honest.
Absolutely not.
But thank you for sharing that, because it's a valid concern. Thank you. Shanna, I see that I'll open for you. There you go.
So I tend to judge myself the most, probably. And so I just basically project that onto everybody else, thinking that they're judging me too. So Lowry, I do a Music Monday as well, but I've just been posting stories. So for me, I'm comfortable with that because I know that it's going to be gone in 24 hours. And so I'm kind of just working up to being okay with posting something that's going to be there for always. And it's just like I'm learning to, sometimes it's hard to listen to myself or even look at myself. And so I'm thinking that other people are feeling the same way. So I just really need to get over that fear.
Well, yeah, but the first thing is to really give yourself some grace, because, and we will talk about this as we go. It's steps, all right, and there's steps that you have to take. You cannot step on the stage at Madison Square Garden with your first song you ever learned to sing. It just doesn't work like that. And you take these small steps, and like I said, we're going to talk about this deeper, but I can go ahead and address it now. Is that you take these small steps, and when you find your confidence in those small steps, you can take bigger steps, and it starts to grow, right? And then you start to realize that, like Lowry was saying, you start to realize that you have something to offer, right? That what you have to offer has merit. All right. And just because you are having self-doubt, and people are like, whoa, when they discover it, wow, you're something special. See, we're our own hardest critic, really and truly. But it does help when you have some instruction on it. All right. Because there are things that you can do that take you out of the amateur section and put you in the pro section. And I know Mari knows what I'm talking about there. Right? We've had that conversation before. There are things that you do when you start that are fine, but as you move into that professional sector of music, you start to tweak them in a different way and start to think about things in a different way. And people, yes, people actually do like what you do. And I think Zach's coming in. Let's see if he's in here. And I think Sarah is in here as well. I can't see everybody. It's really funny how Sarah, I want to welcome you, and I want to welcome Zach as well. So I just saw that you're in here. So thanks for being in here. My page is not showing me all of the blocks at one time. So please raise your hand if you have something to say, and be sure to do it, because this is so interactive. So basically, what I want to say, we've heard from a lot of different people and a lot of different things that they feel are holding them back. And what it all goes down to is actually not feeling good enough. It all goes back to that. So we all feel like there's something missing. We're not a good enough writer, or we're not a good enough speaker, or we're not good enough at English, or we're not good enough singing, or we aren't knowledgeable enough, right? But these things can change. And I think that's the key here, is that one thing that I want you to take away from this masterclass is that to give you hope, and that you're not stuck in this spot, whatever spot that is. And there's people in this group right now, they're all at different levels in the game. It doesn't matter what level, you got another level to go to. So there's no comparison here amongst each other, all right? Wherever you are in your game is fine. It's just knowing what you have to do to move to the next level in your game. All right, so performance or public speaking. So these are all things I've heard people say right here. I tried, but I get so nervous. Here's the one. People will judge me if I mess up. See, we've all heard. The funny thing is that I wanted you to say them out loud. I didn't want to read them because I wanted you. These are your words. These are not my words, okay? It doesn't matter how much I practice. I'm never going to be good enough. All right? Now, I hear that a lot. When you work on a stage like Cirque du Soleil, those are the kind of things that you hear. I practice and I practice and I practice, and I can never win the audition. I can never get in. Kat, I know that you've experienced that. Last year, she tried out for Auburn Singers and didn't make it. I am sure you had those conversations in your own mind, like, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. What do I need to do to change it? How can I do it? And lo and behold, here we are a year later, and she made it. All right. That's just one example. And then here's Fred's. What if I freeze and forget everything that I'm supposed to say? I've done it before. When I tell you I've done everything that you could possibly imagine, I've done every single one of these things on this list. Every single one of them. All right. But you learn how to work through that, and you learn how to, when your wig falls off on stage, not care. Because that's happened to me. All right. Moving on now. Okay. So 3 simple steps. We're talking about the 3-step formula here. Now, the first thing is you got to have this formula, and you really got to work through it in a very formulaic way. All right. Because this is going to help you know if you're moving, what level you're at, and how you're moving through it. The first thing you got to do is find your inner freak. And I love this word. It makes me so happy. It also is the beginning part of frequency. Okay. Which is all part of your voice as well. So you got to find that inner freak, and then you have to embrace it, right? But it's not just enough to find it and embrace it. You got to activate it. And that takes some major courage. Major. All right. But these are the things that we're going to work through. So let's get into this right now. All right. So let's talk about what makes you different. Now, here again, I want you to open up your mics. All right. So, and I'm going to start. I'm going to tell you, when I was a kid, I got called bossy. I can remember getting called bossy all the time. When I was in college, I was told I talk too much. Mari, I'm in the same boat as you. Talk too much. You don't ever shut up. Or you're mean, because I was bossy and I'd like to tell people what to do. So, all of these things came at me. So, what did I do? I tucked myself in because I was insecure about it. Yeah, I made myself small. So I want to hear you and what we're going to identify right now, what it is about you that you're insecure about. And of course, you don't have to talk about it if you're uncomfortable. We are recording this. All right. But I'd love to hear if someone is comfortable saying, okay, this is what makes me stand out. Okay, Chris, thank you. Opening up, Chris.
Yeah. So for me, it has always been the thing of like being a bit extreme. So and not in the sense of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go do some like crazy extreme sports and like I don't know, like ski jumping or skydiving or whatever, but more so like I am a bit obsessive. So like I will have phases and I'll go in deep into things and like you won't hear from me just like on something like 12, 14 hours a day. And then I'll like get out of it, 3 months later. And so that was a big thing when I was a kid. It was like I was like yo-yoing for a little bit. It was like martial arts for a little. It was piano for a little, so like music and things like that. And so yeah, I have these like obsessive phases, like something like pretty, I guess, freak if you could to like terminize it that way. Terminal, whatever.
Yeah.
You get it.
I get it. Yeah. Things that make you different. Yeah. All right. Thank you for sharing. Who else? Oh, Mari? Yeah.
Well, I was really given a hard time as a kid because I was a straight A student and I got bored easy. So I got in trouble all the time for talking too much. And they always had to find something for me to do because I was always bored. The other thing, though, the worst of all was when the music teacher told me that, basically my voice was so bad, I never had to do the do re mi in front of the class or any other singing in front of the class ever again. It was instead of trying to help me to learn how to sing, she basically just let me sit it out in class, in choir class, because I guess I couldn't sing.
And yes. And you know what? Yeah, that's right. Because you would be amazed as a vocal coach how many times I hear that exact story, and it blows my mind. I got kicked out of choir in the 3rd grade, and my teacher told me I couldn't sing. 3rd grader? Seriously? Okay, you don't even singing like this in the 3rd grade. Like nobody, you don't have your voice in the 3rd grade, right? You're learning. So thank you for sharing. Thank you. Let's see. I think Kat had her hand up first. Katrina? Kat.
Hi. So this is somewhat similar with Maury, but I'm a big girl, and Filipinos are usually small built. Asians are usually built small, and I'm a big girl. So that's one of the things that made me an outcast because I'm a bigger girl compared to others. But because I tried to compensate for my physical, I was trying to be a good student, and that also made me an outcast because they were like, you're trying to show off, you're trying to be all like raising your hands and participate and all of that jazz. But yeah, that's me.
It's true. So you overcompensate in another way, and then you get beat up for doing that. All right. Yeah. Instead of knowing that as a bigger person, you show up better on stage. Ha, 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 ha. Yeah. Right? There's that. So now we're about to get to the real stuff. Okay, Zach, you had your hand up. Go ahead. Zach's here, you guys. We've been talking about you, Zach. We're glad you're here.
Oh boy, all good things, I hope, right?
Yeah.
Where do you start with what makes me an outcast, right? We have talked about before the long arms and legs ordeal going on. How 90% of my frame is arms and legs. I don't know if anyone's seen Foster's House for Imaginary Friends, There's an old cartoon when I was a kid. There was a character named Red. His torso was this big, but he was the tallest character on the show. I often compare myself to him.
Oh,
But
oh
I
yeah.
mean, the list goes on. I mean, I
But
sing in a
that's right.
very different range. The list is.
Oh, how
I
fun.
like that someone's inner Gen Z got activated with me referring that show.
I told you we have all age groups on this call, right? Thank you, Zach. And we're going to get into your story in just a second because we're going to talk about how we turn these things we're talking about. I saw someone else's hand raised. Oh, Lowry. Yeah, go ahead, Lowry.
Yeah, I think I've changed a lot, but when I was a kid, I was like too loud and kind of full of myself. And I'd get in these musicals. I remember one time I was in this musical and they had two different casts. And I went to the director and said, they were going to do a final show and they had to choose like who was going to be in the cast. And I'm like, well, I should be, I should be in that cast because I'm the best. Right. So I think I put people off a lot with that kind of that. And you know what? I'm not like that at all anymore. So I guess they whooped it out of me.
They can beat it out of you. They can beat you
Yeah.
down. They can beat you down. And, maybe we don't need to be overboard that way.
Exactly.
But at the same point, there's a fine line between knowing your worth and pulling yourself and tucking yourself back in. And when I met you, you were totally tucking yourself back in. You're shrinking. You were shrinking yourself.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's all about, you shrink. Yeah.
You shrink because why? Because if you're not seen, then you can't be a target for these things, you guys.
Yeah.
All right. For not being good enough, for not standing out, for not whatever, for being too big. All right. Being too smart, being whatever. And Kat, I was just talking about, and this is for you, Kat D. I was talking about before using big words, and I got made fun of when I was a kid for using big words. So I feel you on that. And I was like, I have a big vocabulary. It was natural for me to use big words. I wasn't putting on, but I got accused of doing it. So it's really interesting what comes at us. And one of the things I want to say about it is part of what I do when I work with people is heal these things. So it's not really just about performing or about getting confidence. It's really about coming into who you are and all of the oddities and all the things that really and truly make us special. The long arms and legs, being a bigger Filipino, right? You're just different. All right. Chris, being extreme. I need to know more about this actually, Mari talking too much. And the other examples, you guys, like it's healing those things and coming to understand that just because someone said that doesn't make it so, right? And how can you flip the script? So let's go moving on here. Let's get there. Hey, Zach. So we've segued naturally. All right. So Zach has already told us, I sent him a birthday card not too long ago. It said, happy birthday, arms and legs. And it had Kermit the Frog on it. And that is the beginning of this particular masterclass. Right, Zach?
Oh, yes.
So let's talk about, we're going to get this. How did you first of the thing we did was we identified what it was that made you different, right?
Right.
And then we flipped the script. How do we do that?
Oh, absolutely.
How do we do
it? Well, you figure out what makes you different, and sometimes what makes you different can make you good. Because if it's different, then it's new to whoever's watching. And it can be that alone is a total advantage, because in performance, all we want to see is something new. Nobody wants to sit down and watch the same show over and over.
That's right. That's right. They want to see something different, something entertaining. And what we wound up doing with Zach, he was built for physical comedy. Built naturally. He didn't even have to open his mouth. And it was funny. And so he got a role where he got thrown around on the stage by the big guy. And it was funny. And after that, he got some knee pads so he wouldn't beat his knees and his elbows up too much. But he discovered, though, that he sort of fit into this typecast a little bit, right? He got a monologue that supported this. So when he started auditioning and competing, he started using a monologue that was physical comedy and character singing, which is what he does, right? And guess what? He landed his first lead in a musical theater show, and that was his goal. His freak became his fabulous. And he has learned, yeah, thanks, Chris. It's true. He has learned that interesting, weird, odd look, 6'3", skinny, long arms and legs, can be used to his advantage. So instead of feeling insecure about it and being taller than everybody else in the room, he flipped that around and he made it work for him. So Zach's in a band, Zach's doing musical theater, he's doing all kinds of things now. But it took him embracing that and really stepping into that freak part of who he is. And when I told him I was doing this workshop, he didn't bother him at all. He was very happy about it. It didn't bother him at all. He said, this is who I am. And if someone doesn't, if they want to like laugh, or so be it, because this is making me successful. And that was the birth